Well, we choose our suffering patterns, and I don't think we realize how much we create them by not driving in the right place of the road. So you have to find your own reason as to why to do it, because if you don't understand the why, you're never going to do it, or at least not consistently. And you don't have to wait until you're wealthy to get there. You can be that all along the way, which actually will get you to be wealthy faster because you are operating from a place that makes you happy.
Whether you want more innovation more easily, you are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed, or you simply know that something isn't quite the way you know it can be, you are not alone. I hear the same from leaders every day. On Uncommon Leadership, we explore aligning personal fulfillment with business success, creating authentic teams, and cultivating the resilience, adaptability, and ease necessary to move beyond simply surviving today's challenges into thriving. I'm Michael Hunter with Uncommon Teams, and today we'll uncover fresh insights into what it means to lead with the help of Julie Murphy. Julie is a Chicago-based certified financial planner, founder and CEO of JMC Wealth Management Incorporated. With over 25 years of experience in the financial services industry, Julie and her team have successfully guided thousands of clients across the U.S. and internationally. What sets Julie apart is her holistic approach to financial planning. Rather than focusing solely on numbers, she helps clients uncover their emotional and psychological relationship with money. Her transformative, time-tested program, PACT, which stands for Picturing Yourself, Accepting Reality and Awakening, Choosing to Change, and Taking Action, has empowered countless individuals to align their finances with their true goals and values, creating profound shifts in their lives. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am excited for this conversation.
Good stuff.
When did you first recognize that integrating your whole self and bringing that into everything that you do might be a valuable approach?
Yeah, naturally I was just being myself. And the first aha moment that I operated differently from the financial world was that when I had a boss, when I was first in the industry, who told me I had to stop hugging my clients when they walked in the door. And I was like, what do you mean stop hugging my clients? And my brain just didn't wire there, because I'm like, if they're telling us all their shame, blame, and guilt and everything else about their money, why can't I hug them for them to feel like they have a safe container that they're about to unload on? And so that was my first inkling going, oh, I don't really do this like the rest of the world does it. And it's really about just taking the humanity component and bringing it into finance as opposed to just being all about the numbers.
Right. We can't take our numbers out of ourselves and take them into you while we leave the rest of us at the door.
Right. And then I did a speaking engagement after my first book, The Emotion Behind Money, came out. And this female advisor, which there weren't many of them that were the prior generation to me in business. And she brought me in, I did the talk, and she took the microphone afterwards and she said, oh, don't these young advisors just think that they know how this runs, but they'll understand that one day it's not like this. And I couldn't believe even a female in finance completely threw me under the bus and discredited me in front of 350 of my peers. And I made that decision in 2008 that I was not going to go after advisors to educate them and the success I'm having in connecting these dots for people. I then made my focus to just really help the general public, because the general public was sitting there going, finally, somebody in finance gets it. And so I just decided to put my efforts where people understood it, and go figure, it wasn't my industry, but it was the people at large.
So emotions for a lot of us, something that we're not comfortable talking about for all sorts of reasons. What helps you help your clients live in that uncomfortableness and move through it so that they can work with you and you can help them have the transformation that is what you're there to do?
Well, and that is what my second book, Awaken Your Wealth, and the PACT process that I describe in that book is all about. Because what I've realized is that you really can't manifest what it is that you desire in life with a hijacked nervous system. And our emotions are energy in motion. So if you have lower vibrating or negative emotions about your money, you're contracting your nervous system. And in that, then you're actually creating the dysfunction or the lack of producing things or creating things in your life that you actually desire. And we repeat then our trauma patterns that we have, our survival patterns, if we have a hijacked nervous system. So the whole process that I walk people through is to where I'm meeting people where they're at. Like, I understand where it is that they want to go, but also accepting the reality that you've already created. And then by creating a plan that walks you across that bridge from the place you're at to the place you want to go, and not doing it in a way to hijack your nervous system. And what I mean by that is like I can tell you that the most efficient way to manage your portfolio is a certain way because of your age and how long you have until your goal hits. But if that makes you nervous and you can't sleep at night when the economy is volatile or down, well, that's then affecting your health. And that's not worth it. And so it's about blending those two worlds in terms of your right brain as well as your left brain logical, because your right brain's your emotional side, and finding where does that meet together for clients, and then what financial recommendations then that represent that balance between those two parts of yourself and the two parts of, if you're in a partnership or married, like, right, finding the balance between both of those sets, then that actually positions you to be lucky so that you can manifest exactly the world that you want to create.
What is it that you do specifically that creates that safe space for all this magic to start?
Well, it's about the fact that I look at money in, well, first of all, your compelling reason to change is picturing the life that you want to create. You're not going to change your financial patterns unless you have a desire for something that's different than your current reality. So that's your motivation, if you will, because you want something more than what you already have. So that's kind of like the focus, if you will. But you're telling me what that is. It's not me telling you what it needs to be, right? That's the first step. The second step is also recognizing the fact that we look at money in, I always ask people questions about what is your financial past? So those are your debts. And then what is your money in the present moment? And that's your cash flow going in and out of your checking account. And then your future are the assets that you've built. And the reason I look at all three is because we really need to understand that you're not going to manifest the future you desire if you're stuck in your financial past with all your debt payments, right? And even highly educated people that have big mortgages, still paying on student loans and car debts, you credit cards, you have all these bills, and how can you manifest tomorrow if you're so stuck in your past? And the problem with most people that I run into, even at high income levels, they have all these past choices that they've made that their current cash flow goes to pay. So you have to interrupt that debt cycle and start to come from a place of financial empowerment. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's becoming your own bank. So I'll give you a great example. A lot of people in January have spending hangovers from the holidays. And they always have those bigger credit card bills to pay off in January. And I always say, well, if you know you spend, let's just call it $2,000 a year at the holidays, you can look at what your patterns have been. Well, then set up a savings account that you can actually name your holiday fund. So if you celebrate Christmas, make it your Christmas fund, right? As an example. And if you spend about $2,000, you put $167 a month in that. And you put that in every single month so that next year you're playing offense as opposed to financial defense and having a credit card bill due in January. Because what typically happens with people is that they have every intention of paying that debt off, but then something happens in life and then they can't pay it all off. And now we have a snowball effect with our debt, right? And the same thing is true, like if you finish paying off your car. Another way to play financial offense is don't absorb that payment and spend it on something else. Have it go to a separate savings account that's called new car fund. So when you buy that next new car, you've actually built money up because you're making that $450 payment into a savings account, and you're now becoming your own bank. You're now becoming more financially empowered. And we really have to switch this. Our debt system is actually set up to control the masses. They want to control you having to keep going to work. They want to control you to have to keep paying the bills and paying the interest that you work really hard for. And most of us don't see how this really plays havoc because we keep expanding our lifestyle, but we do it at the cost of being able to live in the present moment, let alone planning for the future that we decide. And if you start to make these little tweaks, another little one, if I may share, is if you own a home or a condo or something, people are always surprised when it's like, oh, my hot water tank, I didn't have that $1,100 to spend. Well, we all know that your appliances are going to go someday, your hot water tank's going to go, your furnace is going to have to replace, the roof and the windows. I've done the numbers. If you put $350 a month into a house maintenance fund over a 20-year period of time, you'll have enough money to replace all those things with cash, as opposed to having to go for the 0% credit card and now having a bill payment. Make the payments to yourself so that you can become your own bank. Because one thing we've not been taught is cash flow management at all.
So what you're saying is we can take all the payments that we'd make anyway, and instead of doing it after we've incurred the expense and paying it to someone else, we can do it to ourselves now, squirreled away, so that when it's time to pay that someone else, we already have everything we need. And we take it from ourselves.
Exactly.
We can take it from our past and current self instead of forcing it on our future self.
Correct. Exactly. And in doing so, you don't hijack your nervous system. And I guarantee you're going to make different choices because you're handing over cash versus this pie in the sky debt amount that we don't really identify with. We identify when cash comes out of our accounts. We don't identify with signing for a $50,000 car loan. We just don't, because it's like funny money.
This is the same conversation I help leaders work through every day, talking about building software. There is all the things we want to build. We never have enough time or money to do it in the perfect way that we want to. So we decide we'll build a little bit now and hope that we have income, time, customers to do the rest later. We build more now. We cut back on quality, so we're building up on technical and other debt that we'll come back to at some point and fix, except we never do because there's always something higher priority. And
right. Exactly.
The approach that you're bringing is a lot of what the Agile movement was intended to enable, that we don't have to do all the stuff. All we have to do is what we know we need to do for the next chunk to create value for the customer. It's visible value that they will happily pay for. And whatever decisions we're making, we can easily re-architect that later on so that because we're building this in an agile and adaptable fashion.
Yep. Well, and most of us haven't given ourselves enough financial space to be agile because every dime that's coming in is going out. And so this whole process is about creating financial space so that you can be more nimble. Like a lot of people don't even have emergency reserves that if they lost their job, they can't pay themselves a paycheck for 6 months. So that's one of the other things that I help people start to get set up on. And why do most financial professionals not assist in that? Because they're not paid to set up those kind of accounts for clients. Because financial planners don't make money on helping people set up cash flow systematized accounts. So they don't recommend them because they're not paid.
I had a thought and it's flown out the window. So maybe I should replace that window. But darn it, I don't have money. You said earlier that the reason we do all this work to get ourselves to a good current state is so we can reach that future state that we know we want. What if we don't know what we want, or we're afraid to admit what we want? How do you help people through that?
I feel like people are so afraid to have the bottom drop out that we really operate from a place of scarcity and not from a place of abundance. And even if you don't know what it is that you want, you just know you want something different. So sometimes people are like, well, I think I want to run my own business, but I don't know exactly what it is. So I'll have them set up a savings account that's just like a new business account so that they have the potential. So they've created space for themselves to actually then start something, because while they're trying to figure out what it is, they're funding it. Because remember, money is energy. And you want to energize the things that you want to create in your life. So even if you don't know exactly what it is, like for example, I knew I always wanted a boat. And I didn't know what kind of boat. So when I first set up my savings account, I called it the boat fund. Well, then I realized after about 3 years of putting into the bucket, I was like, oh, I want a sailboat. Because I had then been sailing versus powerboat. And then I figured out 2 years after that, I'm going, oh, I want a 34-foot Beneteau. Like I kept renaming my savings account, because on the online savings accounts, you can name them. So as you get more clarity, you can actually then change it, because you've now gotten the knowing as to what that is, so that you can start to tweak. And some people just are like, I just know I don't want to do the same financial patterns anymore. Okay, well, if you don't want to do the same financial patterns anymore, well then what do? Right? You just say, okay, I at least want to make sure that I can cover myself if I lose my job, right? Okay, well then start with an emergency reserve fund, where you put X amount per paycheck into it, and you don't touch it unless you lose your job.
This all takes some rigor to to put that money in every month or every paycheck, and to not touch it except for the thing that it is. How do you help?
That's why I like the savings accounts where you can name them, because then your intention is right in your face as to what that money's for.
Yes.
So but it does take some discipline, but the compelling reason to do it is because you want something different than your current reality, because you're working towards something. That's why it's got to be yours. Like if I just tell people to put money in a savings account, they're going to be like, yeah, I know you've been telling me for years to put that there, and I just won't, because they don't have a reason to do it. So you have to find your own reason as to why to do it, because if you don't understand the why, you're never going to do it, or at least not consistently.
A big part of what you're doing, Julie, is helping people remember the intention that they started with and sustaining that
100%
through. That
right.
Makes such a difference.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
How else do you help the people you help feel safe and empowered to bring their unique self into everything that they're doing? The finances that they're working through with you, and everything else that they do to create those finances.
Well, I ask questions when I work with somebody, not only on their financial life, but I want to know, how's your career going? Do you like where you work? Do you like what you do, the work you do? I also ask about family life. I also ask about them personally. Like, do they want to travel more? Do they wish they had more free time? Do they not want their commute to work? Like, I ask all those other different questions because I'm trying to get to the core of who they are today. Not yesterday, but today. Because sometimes the job you have fed you for some time, but now you've outgrown it. But you stay there because you feel like you have a guaranteed paycheck and it's easy because you know it. But what's happening is you're not liking your coworkers now, you're not liking your boss, you're not liking the work that you do anymore. And I have learned that what that does over time when you stay in a job, except for something that you really enjoy doing, and you're doing it just for the paycheck, you're creating disease in your body. And so I'm always asking questions surrounding the authenticity of who you are and what you want to be today. Because if it's not serving you and it's not making you happy, well, then I know to ask the questions and to hold them accountable to going, hey, have you put your resume together just for shits and giggles to see if, something opens up? But if you never do the resume, you're never going to get it out there. So there's these other side things that have really indirect things to do with money. Because if you don't love your job, you're not going to get pay raises you want, you're not going to get bonuses, and you're not going to get the promotions you want because you don't really like it. And again, everything is energy. Einstein proved it. E equals MC squared. And when we realize that our emotions, like when we have with our jobs, if we don't like our coworkers, guess what? At some point that's going to blow up. And the key is to not be the victim of it blowing it up, but be more proactive and direct yourself to where it is that you want to go as opposed to being victim of circumstance.
Yes, and even if it hasn't blown up yet, that dissonance between we really just want to have fun and I'm not having fun is dragging down not just your performance at the job, is dragging down your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your friends, family, everyone that you interact with, and with the world at large. So it's a lot harder to be joyful in other parts of our life when we're not joyful at work.
Right.
And the reverse
it really is because you spend way too much time there. And I will also say that when people don't enjoy their jobs, but they're doing it for the paycheck, oftentimes when they change those jobs, their spending goes way down because they're not spending their money to try to make themselves happy because they're just happy. So there's a lot more stuff that changes. No different than like when somebody has enough money to retire. You have very different conversations with your boss when you have enough money to stop working, right? Because you're in a place of empowerment, right? And it's the same thing even if you switch your jobs before retirement. When you're proactive and you're going after it, it's really interesting how our spending really does ebb and flow exactly with our happiness. Because if you're not happy, you're going to try to find happiness somewhere else, like in your spending.
There's the saying that money can't buy happiness, and it's really kind of the reverse, that happiness brings money. Or whatever else other form of abundance you want.
Correct. Abundance of love, money, opportunities, everything. But we have to realize we have to choose the happiness first. That's like people will come to me and say, well, which is the smart financial thing to do? I'm like, well, which one makes you giggle more? They look at me and they go, what? I go, which one makes you giggle more? Because the one that makes you happier will bring more money to you. Happens all the time.
Yes. And making those choices of giggling over groaning can still be pretty scary, even when we know why we're doing it, and even if we know the pain that it's costing us now. How do you help people over that hump?
Well, I usually have them start in an area of their life which is the easiest. So a lot of times their job is the easiest. Like it's harder to do the personal stuff or family stuff before that. Usually a job is something that it's a little bit more of an arm's length away, so that tends to be a little bit easier for people to address. But I've had people address different things in different areas, and that just depends on who they are and what they're all about. So it's just starting which one's easy, because if it's not easy, then it's becoming another, pressure point or something else that's going to create strain. And the whole point here is to do things that don't hijack your nervous system. Because in a hijacked nervous system, you cannot manifest anything, because you're hijacked, so you're contracting. So that's not staying open and abundant.
Is some of what you do then helping them with breathing and diet and all these other things that help our nervous system calm down?
Yeah, I learned that about, when was it, 2007, I started doing a lot of work with Deepak Chopra through the years. And there's this huge integration with our health and our wealth. And we either work things out or we act it out, and we do it through our money, our health, or our relationships. And in that process, when I see somebody acting it out, whether it's in their spending or, in their health, they tell me that, they got some diagnosis or something of that nature. I know the resources. I've created a lot of alliances of people that can help them in the other areas that are not my expertise, but I know enough to send them to where they need to go to help address those pieces of the puzzle.
So you're sort of acting as a coordinator across.
I always say I'm the quarterback, and I bring the players of the team to the table. Sorry, I come from a football family. We have a lot of football analogies.
That's great. That's a perfect metaphor. You're helping them recognize all aspects of their wealth, not just the financial wealth, and how to optimize.
Yes, because eventually it'll affect your financial world.
Yes, everything affects everything, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What beyond what we've talked about so far is the financial value of doing all this work?
Well, again, when you align with self and the work you're meant to bring in your unique self to the world, and you're operating in the world authentically, then, like we said earlier, it's bringing you more abundance of love, abundance of opportunities, abundance of good health. But what I have learned is that, I categorize people as there's the poor, debtors, dreamers, accumulators, and rich but empty. Now, anyone who is poor, debtor, dreamer, or an accumulator, they always think that once they get all the money, then everything's going to be okay. And then I have this category that's called rich but empty, because they get there, they're financially independent, and there's still something missing every time. And that's why they're rich but empty. And that's because they didn't fully align with themselves. And in that alignment, then it's about embodying what I call real wealth. And you don't have to wait until you're wealthy to get there. You can be that all along the way, which actually will get you to be wealthy faster, because you are operating from a place that makes you happy. Because you're happy because it's fully supporting you and who you are and what you want to be and do in the world, why you were put on the planet in the first place. And that authenticity, as I like to say, let your freak flag fly. That's a phrase let your freak flag fly. Be who it is that you are meant to be, and don't apologize. And be that in every facet of the world.
Yes.
And that's what then results in happiness all along the way, no matter how many zeros are in your checking account.
Absolutely. I always say that whoever you are, the world is clamoring to have you in their life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And to whatever extent we're not aligned, it's not just that aligning gives us energy, not being aligned costs us energy. So not a, when we're aligned, we're in the track. And if you've ever driven backcountry roads that are ruts with, there's a way to go that will let you go smoothly along that road. You are aligned with that road. And if you're outside the least bit of that, it's a lot harder to drive, and it wreaks havoc on your suspension. And we think about being aligned.
Totally agree.
We think about being aligned as this is where things are smooth and easy, and we forget about the cost from not being aligned. It's not just that we feel better when we're aligned. We're saving so much in so many different ways.
Well, we choose our suffering patterns, and I don't think we realize how much we create them by not driving in the right place of the road. And when you're not being 100% yourself, let's just say you put up with a lot of junk from a boss, if you will. Someone who kind of has the same patterning as one of your parents. I see that often. And then you're reinforcing your suffering patterns of being a victim or scarcity, and you're in survival mode. It's familiar. That's why you do it, because you're familiar with it. But it's about becoming conscious, going, you know what? This is the same thing, and I don't want to do this anymore, because that's the light bulb that you're repeating patterns. And it's like, get to that part of the road that is smooth sailing. So it goes back to what we talked about earlier about setting intentions, that I have people even map out, like, tell me what the coworkers in your new job are like. Tell me what the teamwork is like. Tell me what the travel is like. Tell me what your freedom in terms of working from home or going to the office looks like. Because I want you to map out exactly what you want in that job. Like, I just had another client who got laid off, and she goes, I can't believe I got laid off again. And the one thing, everything else aligned in this job, except for one thing that was on her list, and it was they wouldn't give her the title of Chief Marketing Officer. And they said, we just in a small organization, we really don't have that title, and they completely BS'd her, because 3 weeks after she was hired, they hired somebody in that spot. They just wanted to get her cheaper. But she negotiated one of her intentions away, so she was not being authentic, because she knew she had the expertise to be the CMO. She was paid like a CMO at the lower end of a CMO, but it was still in that range, right? So she justified it to her brain. And then, because it wasn't aligned, she finds herself 12 months later, they've decided to move on. After they got all of her ideas out of her, told her it's their proprietary stuff, they completely pulled the rug out from underneath her. And she's kicking herself because it's like the fourth time she's done it. And she thought this time she had it licked. But she left that one thing out that was important to her because it wasn't perfectly aligned with who she is. And she knew what those intentions were with what she wanted in a new job. And so this is how it can creep up on us in these small little ways, and we don't realize how it's this one little tweak, and we've, turned ourselves a little bit.
Driving in that rut, you can be not perfectly aligned. It is not horrible. It's even pretty easy, but it's not as easy as when you're straight down the middle.
Exactly. Like, it just doesn't have to be as bumpy as we choose for it to be often.
It doesn't.
That's why people say, well, it's good enough.
And we often think about ruts as confining, but they're also freeing. Some of those ruts are deep enough that you do not have to steer, because the road is steering. Those ruts are steering for you. You might as well be on a railroad track.
Right.
And there's always a way to get out of that rut and into another one that fits you better. Whether that's...
Oh, no doubt.
That might be by changing tires that are so fat none of the ruts are going to fit, and you can go wherever you want. Or it might be by lifting up and moving into a different rut, or it might be just leaving that car behind because it doesn't fit you any more than the rut does anymore, and buying an airplane or going cross-country skiing, or just choosing another car and a different set of ruts to take you a different place.
Correct. And that's where we repeat our patterns from our childhood.
Right. So I imagine a lot of your conversations resemble what a lot of conversations people have with therapists and counselors, where you're digging into...
That they do.
I hear the same thing too. So, because everything ultimately comes down to our understanding of who we are, how comfortable we are with who that is, and how many layers we have between who we really are and what we understand right now.
Correct. Because you can only deal with what it is that you're conscious of. And as you start to set this intentionality and actually start to shift things, you'll become more aware because you're choosing a different path. That's intentional.
And sometimes we discover that that new path is so different from the one we just thought we were going after.
That is very true. And, and people tend to get like regrets, or they struggle, or, but it's like, forgive yourself because you did the best you could with the knowledge that you had at the time, and redirect the thing that's trying to pull you back down again, causing you to contract because you feel guilty and you're judging yourself and you're blaming. And just go, you know what? I don't need to go there. I just am going to focus on what I want to create now. Yep. Because that's why the second step of my process is not only you have to accept reality. And in that acceptance, you're creating emotional space and emotional neutrality of going, well, it is what it is. Whew, maybe next time I can do it a little bit better. Instead of like beating yourself up and then just finding another rut.
Right. One of the reasons there's so much overwhelm today is we have so much more information telling us who we should be.
Right.
And we're at the same time much more aware than we used to be on who we really are. And that dissonance is so overpowering.
I think one of the things that I have people recognize going, even though it's an opportunity and it's something that you can do, doesn't necessarily mean that you should do. Because it could be a great opportunity, but the question is like I always ask people, like, does it make you giggle? Does it make you happy? Even though it's a good financial opportunity, if it doesn't make you happy, it's not going to be sustainable. Because what I'm talking about is creating a life that's on a solid foundation, that's sustainable, and not something that's going to create what I like to call leaky containers. So for example, if you're working in a job that you really don't love and they're demanding all these hours and you're missing time with your family, well, eventually half your money's going out the door for a divorce. And that's your leaky container. So we have to make these decisions, start to make these decisions from our inner knowing, our intuition, as to the things that you know are right. And then I always tell people that there is a difference between our mental intelligence and our body intelligence. Our bodies are way smarter than our minds, but we have ignored our bodies completely. Whether it's like anti-anxiety medications or food that we distract ourselves with, or drinking or smoking or whatever else, right? And we numb our bodies and then we can't hear the signals. But if you're calm and relaxed, then it's the right step forward. If it gives you pause, if it gives you angst, it's not exactly right. And your body is trying to tell you those answers. And that's the intelligence that we really need to pay attention to, which most of us have ignored most of our lives.
Yes. And those signals aren't even always telling us to change the direction It may just be, you know what? I need to go have lunch before I make this decision.
Exactly. It's not a yes. So just pause.
And ask, okay, what do I need to do to know what the answer is? Or to make this a yes? Even better.
Exactly. Precisely. Or to get the answer if it's a no. Right?
Yes. To get a clear answer either way. And this overwhelm makes it really challenging to enjoy the process of change. That having abundance is going to bring, and getting
Right.
to abundance will
Right.
entail. It's not that we have to enjoy change. Some of us just never will. That's fine. In fact, most
Right.
of us don't really enjoy change. I'm a weirdo in that way. That's one of my freak flags, is that I love change. We can enjoy the process, though. We can enjoy knowing that, oh, that foreign element just dropped in and I am so resisting it right now. We can have fun with that if we know that's what's going on. And we know
Right.
that the resistance isn't who we are, it's just something that we're experiencing.
Correct. And if we pause and just allow that resistance to be there, usually those emotions pass right through. It's when we react to that resistance is when you create more havoc.
Yes, when we resist the resistance, then everything amps up. It's like when I'm walking my dog, BB, sometimes she really wants to go after that rabbit, and I really don't want her to. And we can just stand there.
Totally
just
understand.
tugging in different directions, and neither of us are going to go anywhere.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And instead, if we can
Makes complete
distract
sense.
each other, then we can both have some fun playing together and get some food, which might not be a rabbit, but that's
Exactly.
okay. We don't have to cook it either.
Right?
Yes.
That's true.
For people, Julie, who would love this heart-centered alignment focused approach you bring to finance, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, certainly you can reach me at juliemurphy.com. And I've got all kinds of social media from my YouTube channel, which is under Julie Murphy. My Instagram's Awaken with Julie. And my wealth management firm is jmcwealth.com. And it's just it was really important for me because I didn't grow up with money. And it was really important for me to, no matter where a person is starting at, that we have something at juliemurphy.com for anybody in whatever level and where they're at to help them get from point A to point B in their life. And so I would just encourage people, for my books, my workbooks, I have online courses. I, myself or financial planners in my office work one-on-one with people. And it's really funny how the sun is just shining in, which doesn't normally do this at this time. Getting those sun rays of light here. A little brightness on the day. And, but yeah, to me, it's about self-love and self-care, and if you're attracted and want to shift something in their world financially and you've not found your stride on something, it's probably because you need something out of the box, and that is what I do.
That is definitely what our conversation today has been full of. You have some free workshops and worksheets for our listeners' audience.
Yes, we definitely have on our website at juliemurphy.com, we have some worksheets and some of those questions that I talked about to ask yourself to let your authenticity come to the surface. And I break them down into your family life, your work life, your personal life, and your financial life, and questions that I ask people when I'm one-on-one, common questions that I've always asked through the years.
Great, thank you. And we will have all these links in our show notes.
You're welcome.
What would you like to leave our audience with today, Julie?
To love yourself enough to take that next right step for you.
I love it. Thank you, Julie, for a wonderful conversation today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, audience, for joining us today. What is your best next step? Julie and I would love to know. Thanks, and have a great day.